Welcome to Up on Game presents Taylor Scouting. Coach Randy Taylor is bringing his 40-plus years of knowledge to you. This is Taylor Scouting. And now, here's Coach Randy Taylor.
Hey, I'm on today with the podcast. Jason Negro is joining me. He's the head football coach at St. John Bosco High School in Bellflower, California, suburb of Los Angeles. Bosco is a member of the Trinity League, which in my mind is the elite high school football conference in the country. Coach took over the reins in 2010. Since then, he has built a national powerhouse, no doubt. The Braves are coming off a big win at St. Thomas Aquinas, who were riding a 27-game win streak at the time and rated in the top 10 nationally among high schools. With a 2-0 record, they face another nationally recognized program, Friendship Collegiate Academy out of Washington, D.C. These guys don't shy away from anything. Since Coach Negro returned to Bosco in 2010, their overall record is 144-24, and traditionally are rated in the top 10 nationally. I've been able to spend a good deal of time on the Bellflower campus and watching the Braves practice and in games across Southern California. And what stands out the most to me is the consistency of the program in all facets of the game. There's the confidence, performance, discipline, academics, and character displayed by the players, coaches, and administrators. I kind of always know what to expect when I go overseas St. John Bosco. You know, there's like a fluidness to their program. It's like that duck on the pond, right? Above the water, everything's calm. Below the water, those feet are going a mile a minute. They're going like crazy. And the guy that's stirring the drink for the Braves is Jason Negro. And I want to welcome Coach to LeVar Arrington's Up on Game Network and the Taylor Scouting Podcast. Coach Negro, thanks for joining us on the show, brother.
Appreciate you having me, Randy. It's always a pleasure to have an opportunity to talk with you, talk a little bit of football, a little bit of recruiting. We go way back, and I just appreciate you giving me a platform to talk about the things that we're doing here at Bosco.
My pleasure, Coach. I know you're a big culture guy. Let's start with a two-part question. How do you create the terrific culture you have here at Bosco? And do you have a tangible plan to accomplish?
Well, I think the first and foremost in terms of trying to build the culture it's all about human capital. It's a term that I like to use. And basically what it means is trying to go out there and surround yourself with the most talented people, the ones that are going to share your vision, share your philosophy, and go out there and try to impact as many young people as we possibly can when we have the opportunity to do so. And one of the fortunate things for me, being a product of St. John Bosco High School as a student and graduating from here and being educated by the Salesians of Don Bosco in this Catholic school manner, all boy education, has basically set the framework for the culture of our program. And I've just basically been an extension of that. I've taken the leadership values that the Salesians have passed down to me and implemented that educational system into my program. And I surround myself with talented people, not just my coaching staff, but the training staff, the administration, the teacher, the faculty, everybody associated with the program. And then, you know, you bring the families in that kind of fit that mold, and it just basically organically is able to work. And going back about us being consistent, I think the culture is the number one thing that has allowed us to be consistent from year after year, because they just understand what the expectations are and they just kind of roll along with it.
Is there a buy-in outside of the football program with everybody else that's involved on a fringe with you guys?
Without question. I mean, I kind of set the standard. I set the expectations. I'm constantly throughout the course of the year. I'm not a real big meeting guy where we have weekly meetings, or I'm going to kind of draw up, upon their time and monopolize that. But I do set different parameters as we go through the course of the season, whether it starts in January, ends in December, where we're going to come together as a staff, as a collective unit, talk about the culture, talk about the expectations of the program, and what we're trying to accomplish. And I think that if everybody hears a consistent message that's happening over and over and over again, they're going to have to buy in to what my philosophy is. And if not, they're just simply not going to fit in to what I'm trying to do here. They're not going to fit into my staff, and they're going to have to make their way, onto somewhere else that might align with their philosophy and their belief system. But that's one of the reasons why we've been so successful, is because I have a lack of turnover. My guys have been a part of this program for a long time, very little turnover in my coaching staff. And I think that's kind of a byproduct of the buy-in culture that what you're talking about.
Can you put your philosophy into words?
I think so. I think the greatest thing that we are responsible for as educators or coaches is to try to provide unique experiences for young people and to help them develop during this 4-year phase of their lives to where they can be successful in the next phase, which is the collegiate, time, whether they just go to become a student or whether they go to college to become a student athlete, or some kids, might even matriculate into the military or even to the workforce. So it's our responsibility, and the philosophy of mine is to provide unique experiences by our young people, help them develop into the person that they want to become in a 4-year window. So it's pretty simple philosophy. However, I think that if you stick to that and you run everything that you can in your program through that philosophy, it's going to allow you to accomplish those goals.
When you're planning your practice schedule and your daily practice plans, are you consciously using your philosophy and instilling that culture into your kids? I mean, do you think about it as you're doing this practice plan?
Without question. I mean, I think everything that we do, every decision that I make is strategic. We're not just kind of a fly by the seat of your pants type program. There's meticulous meetings that happen with me and my coordinators or my staff here with my director of football operations in terms of, how can we take this particular practice, or how can we take this particular event and kind of infuse our philosophy or infuse some of the elements that are necessary in order to build the culture that we're looking for. How are you going to be able to utilize the time that you're with your kids to, use that as a teachable moment or an opportunity for you to be able to, implement some of these things that you're looking for. So absolutely, I think you have to plan that way. At the end of the day, I feel that I'm a teacher rather than just a coach. So teachers, I think the best ones that I've ever been around, or the ones that I've experienced or who have taught me through my many years of education, are the ones who are organized, they're planned, they're able to strategically, implement whatever the daily lesson might be, and then they're able to go out there and execute it. And that's no different than a coach, and that's no different than the approach that I take as the head football coach, here at Bosco.
You mentioned your director of football operations. I want to say thanks to Jesse Christensen, who does unbelievable work for you guys and the Braves. So thank her for me, will you, Coach?
Oh, without question. I mean, again, it's about human capital, and you got to try to go out there and invest in people. This is something that we did about, 10, 11 years ago as we developed this position on campus as a director of football operations. It's alleviated a lot of the stress and the pressures off of me that go into a program that's this large, and allowed me to kind of focus my attention on the coaches, focus my attention on the student athletes, and then she could take all the kind of peripheral things that need to be accomplished. We're a national brand. We travel all over the country. So there's a lot of things that have to be done from a logistical standpoint. Social media has exploded over the last 10 years. So we've really kind of taken a deep dive into that. How do we build our brand and let people know about the culture that we're trying to create through that? And without a position and without somebody who's capable like her, we would never be able to accomplish it. Well, I mean, it's a team effort here at St. John Bosco.
Yeah, I've seen it a lot there. That's been fun going over to watch you guys. Does this, your culture, philosophy, does it ever become routine at any point? Once you have your program bought in, does it become a habit, I guess is the best way to put it, so that everybody's pulling on the rope in the same direction?
I certainly hope so. I mean, the ultimate thing is we want to create positive habits within our kids, and we want to create a routine. The one thing that you have to be cautious, though, when you use the term habit or you use the term routine, is you don't want to become complacent. I think that's the thing that is the cautious, kind of the gray area, when you're working with those types of terms and those types of phrases. You definitely don't want to be in a situation where routine becomes complacency, because then all of a sudden somebody's going to catch up to you. Somebody's going to do something that's going to overtake the success at which you have, and that's something that I'm constantly working on.
You never want to be on automatic pilot, right?
Oh, without question. I mean, we're not a copy and paste type program. We're not a just change the date, at the top of the page and roll to the next one. That's not what we're, trying to do. But then you also have to sit there and say, well, if it's not broke, why fix it? So there's a lot that really goes into this. And I think that's one of the reasons why I really lean heavily on my staff here, my coaches, my operations department, the training staff. How do we kind of infuse this new life into the program without disrupting what we've already created that's been really amazing? So it's kind of a fun process. It's a challenge to me. Like, how can you put these little tweaks within your program that's going to allow you to continue to climb and not plateau, but yet it's also not going to become so boring or monotonous or routine that it kind of retards your ability to be successful.
Coach, let's talk about the game preparation. Each game has its own set of issues, like when it's a rivalry game or a projected cakewalk. I know you never want to hear that. Right. Does each game take on its own individual process and lessons that you're trying to teach each kid about how they should respond to each game?
Yeah, we look at every single game as an isolated event. I mean, we're not one of these programs. I mean, obviously, everybody knows that modern day is in the future. I mean, that's one thing that we can't hide from, or we can't get away from. Or everyone knows October 13th, it's there. We know that. However, we do a really good job in this program of taking each individual event and categorizing that into a small window of a 7-day period that's going to allow us to start on Saturday, end on Friday, and everything in between is kind of geared toward that particular assessment or that culminating event that is on Friday. Now, if you stack all those together, hopefully it's going to put us in position on October 13th to be successful enough to win one of the most challenging games that's, presented to us on our schedule. But at the end of the day, we look at each and every one of these opportunities without thinking into the future. We want to really isolate this particular game this week. St. Thomas Aquinas is in the past. That was great. We enjoyed it. We experienced it. However, Friendship Academy, starting Sunday morning for us, since we played on Saturday, immediately was our focus. It was immediately a point of our attention. And that is what we have really kind of put our mindset toward over the last couple of days. And we're going to continue to do so all the way till kickoff at 7:00 on Friday.
John Wooden seems to be someone that's played a role for you in a lot of your background or philosophy. Talk about John Wooden a little bit and what he did, and maybe his pyramid, how that affects you.
Well, I mean, I think that the biggest thing is with the pyramid specifically, it's provided structure at the bottom, and then it kind of culminates to a peak. And I talk to my kids about it all the time. This is an ongoing process within our program. And I think that if you can identify the things within your program that you have to constantly work on to be great or to be elite, then that's what you have to kind of work on. And if you were to flip that pyramid over and you put winning at the forefront, if that was the most important thing, then it's going to topple over and you're not going to be very successful. Or you may be successful, but your program's going to be a roller coaster. You're going to have your really high peaks and your really low valleys. And that's not what I want to do. I want to build a foundation, and I want to be able to continue to work toward that mountaintop. And I think that's just a philosophy that I've been able to absorb from some of the teachings, whether it be John Wooden or any other elite football coach, basketball coach, or any elite leader in our country, is kind of how I've, built my philosophy and built my coaching style around, is those ones that are trying to peak at the right time, trying to not be a one-hit wonder, and to have a consistent approach to doing something excellent for a long period of time.
Are there any other people off the top of your head or events you use in your program's development or philosophy?
Well, I think that's kind of ongoing, to be honest with you. I look at some of the great coaches out there in the country. I try to draw upon them. And because I'm here at Bosco, I have the unique opportunity to go out and meet some of these really elite coaches and spend some time. I mean, why is that? Because we have a lot of talented players and they're going to give us access. So I've had opportunity to sit down with somebody like a Nick Saban, one-on-one and talk to him about philosophy or what he's trying to accomplish within his program. And I'm trying to obtained as much information as him. Spent a lot of time with Kirby Smart in the University of Georgia program. Dabo Sweeney is another one at Clemson. When Dabo Sweeney back in the spring of 2019, I had an opportunity to spend some time out there and go watch their spring practice as they were coming back from spring break. And Coach Sweeney, gave me the opportunity to come in and spend some time in his staff meeting where he met with his entire football organization and introduced me to everybody and allowed me to come in and take notes and just to watch his leadership style and what was important to him and some of the things that I was able to uncover behind the scenes about how he approaches practice, how he approaches his kids' academics, how he approaches the relationships that he has not only with his players, his families, his coaches, his staff, was absolutely a once in a lifetime chance for me as a high school coach to learn from somebody. I spend a lot of time reading about Bill Belichick, spend a lot of time reading about Bobby Knight. Although he was kind of on the crazier side of things, I still think his philosophy and his approach to trying to make his kids perform at an optimal level was pretty unique and special. So that's kind of where I've done. And I'm somebody that's evolving too. I don't believe that you could just have a set in stone philosophy or vision to something. Things have changed. The environment around us has changed. We have to change and adapt as well. And I think I've been able to be pretty good at that. And I think that might be one of the reasons why we're continuing to have success year in and year out, is because our ability to not be so rigid, but to be flexible to change with the times that are happening around us.
Coach, let's talk about leadership. How do you identify leaders and or leadership?
Well, I think the most important thing is the by example leader is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for kind of a leader that's transformational, not somebody that's going to be transactional where he's kind of like one of these type guys. I want to see somebody who's going to lead by their actions and what they do on a day-to-day basis. It's not a popularity contest here in our program. I don't really have big distinguishing gaps between people's roles. Like, you're a coordinator, so therefore you get X, Y, and Z. You're a position coach, so you only get Y and Z. And then you're a, kind of a helper or volunteer, you only get the Z portion of this. I try to have a consistent approach. I let my leaders emerge. I'm not a coach that assigns captains. We don't have captains in our program. I don't have leadership groups or anything like that. It's just basically we're all in this together. We're one united, entity. I do have weekly meetings with my seniors, with an assistant coach that meets with them privately. They talk about some of the things that are going on or some of the things that might be necessary for that week. And then they report back to me because I do want to have a pulse of what's happening within my program. Because as the head coach, I'm all over the place. I'm not sitting in meetings. I'm not sitting in, some of the weight room sessions. I don't get to be around all of my kids as much as I want to, but the seniors have that responsibility to be able to address their concerns with the coach, comes back to me. And I think organically, that's how leadership grows. And I empower my people to be leaders within their own areas. And it's their responsibility to adhere to the expectations that I have, which are high, and they better not fall short of them or they run the risk of being replaced. So it motivates people to work hard. It motivates people to be productive. And they have to be in alignment with what I'm looking for as a head coach.
But when you find that leadership, how do you use it? How do you use it for the rest of your program?
That's a great question. I think you have to allow them the ability to go out there and to display their leadership to others. That's a big one. If you have this great leader and you've identified that they have the ability to do so, well, then you have to provide them a little bit of rope to go out there and to kind of put that leadership upon the players. And I think it's also important for the kids, the parents, the coaches, the staff members to see that we do have able-bodied, intelligent people that are leaders within their own rights, that it doesn't always have to come from the top. That's the thing also, is I don't want to become a stale, stagnant type, repetitive guy. Some of these kids, I've got 3 kids in my program that are 4-year starters. So they've heard the same speech, the same, monotony of information coming from me over and over again. Well, if I can identify a leader that might have the ability to go and to give my kids a little bit something different than what I'm going to be able to give them, I certainly give them that chance to go out there and do it. And I think that keeps the freshness in the program that you're looking for. And the stagnant, culture that could potentially arise from that is eliminated. So I think you got to draw upon their talents, and you got to let them be able to display them, in different, times or different events within your program.
Coach, let's talk about recruiting. I got a couple of, I think, a 2-part question. Generically, how do you handle the recruiting process? And do you need a plan for each level and each player, if that makes
100%.
sense?
Yeah. And this is something that you really would understand within our program, is we have varying levels of talent within our program. And what I like to choose to use, in terms of the recruiting philosophy, is I believe our kids fall into specific bands, if that makes sense. So there's a Power 5 elite guy that I don't have to do a whole lot. The Uwangalele brothers, DJ and Mateo, I didn't do a lot for their recruitment. They're both kind of freaks at their positions. Their recruiting kind of took off by themselves. I mean, I just kind of had to put them in a situation to where they can display their talents and let them go. Then there's the next band of athlete that's kind of a group of 5 or a Power 5 guy potential. And we have to really kind of push their recruiting, help them become more identifiable, improve their games, have conversations with coaches. We've built a lot of recruiting equity in our program, where college coaches now call us and they're going to listen to us when we say this kid is capable of playing at your university. They're going to listen to us. And it's taken years for us to get there. That didn't start, 21 years ago when I started in this game. I had no equity in the recruiting game. Now I have a lot of equity because our kids have gone to these universities, been successful, and they've gone out there and been able to be, positive impact players for those programs. But where I think here at St. John Bosco, we do our best work is that lowest band that we have, the high academic kids, the lower Division 1, 1AA, NAIA, Division 2, 3 athletes, placing those guys that may not even start for St. John Bosco and putting them in a university where they can use their academic abilities, their athletic abilities to go play and get scholarship, at some of these schools. That's where we kind of make a living. I have coaches that are responsible for that. I have an elite level coach that works with my elite level guys and their recruitment. And I also have, a coach, his name is John Hall. You know him very well, who kind of works with that lower tier type player. And again, the only reason why I speak to lower tier, because they might be undersized. They might be under, they don't have as much speed or they don't have as much strength. They're still very, very good high school football players. They have a destination that they could go to in college. It's our responsibility as a coaching staff to find where that might be.
This year's team, Coach, is, I think, rated number 1 nationally. What do you like about this group of kids?
I think I like their workman type attitude that they bring every day, that they haven't rested on the laurels and they haven't really rested on the success which we had last year. Last year we're coming off a national championship program, in 2022. And these kids had every excuse to kind of ride that success into the 23 season, potentially go into a cruise mode where I'm going to have to constantly try and find ways to motivate them, to keep them humble, to keep them, hungry to come into this season. I haven't had to do that. I think that goes, and all the credit should go to the coaching staff as well as to the players and the leaders within that program, that has allowed us to stay grounded in what our overall goals are, and that's to continue to try to become the best football team that we can week in and week out, not necessarily worry about the rankings. That's going to sort itself out as the season kind of goes through. And at the end of the day, it's what you're going to be judged against about what you were able to accomplish in December, not what we're accomplishing here in August. So I think it's kind of organically happened. I'm most pleased with the players and the coaches and their approach, that they continue to strive for excellence and to realize that we can accomplish something that no team ever has here at Bosco, and that's become back-to-back CIF state and potential national champions.
Yeah, that you've done. I know John Hall, and you guys have done such a great job. Like you said, are there some NFL prospects in this group? Any grad year who we should look for?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, we've had quite a run over the last 10 years of NFL players. We've had 2 kids drafted in the first round. Josh Rosen as a quarterback. Trent McDuffie, who's a starting nickel for the Kansas City Chiefs, just won a Super Bowl, championship with the Chiefs last year out of the University of Washington. We've had players like Chris Steele, Wyatt Davis, Jacob Tiote Mariner, Damian Mama, Nico Fala. All those guys have been a part of NFL rosters. Jaden Woodby is with the LA Rams, just made their practice squad, and so did Terrell Bynum with the LA Chargers. So we've had a lot of kids that have kind of gone on to play at the NFL level, which is obviously incredibly challenging and difficult to do. It's such a small group of individuals that are able to do that. And this team currently has 3 or 4 guys that I think, if they continue to progress in the way that we feel that it is possible to do, and they stay healthy and they have some luck along the way, that they're going to be able to do that as well. But you just never know. Right now, we're going to focus on the here and now. We're not going to try to put the cart in front of the horse and think about college life or think about the NFL. Right now, we have to be the best versions that we are. And that's a high school football player in week 3 of the season trying to go win a football game on Friday night. And I know it sounds cliche, but if you have that approach, and my kids know this very well about me, that's what we're going to focus on. That's going to be the point of attention for this week. And we're going to worry about Friendship Academy and see what happens. And then on Saturday, we're going to worry about St. Francis.
It sounds good, Coach. There's something that even high school coaches now have to deal with, and that's the NIL. How do you handle that?
Well, to this point, I kind of leave it in the hands of the parents and the athletes. This is not an area that I'm even that overly educated in. I'm learning about it. I'm starting to get a better understanding of what it is. I don't even think the NCAA understands it, because right now they're just paying these kids to come to these universities. It's all illegal as heck. Obviously, they're going to somehow organize this and get a grasp of it, but the NCAA doesn't even know anything. They say no pay for play. Right. That's happening. My kids, if they can go out there and they can get, revenue or generate revenue off their name, image, and likeness, and they could get directed to a university that's going to pay them to do that, then all the power goes to them. Until they can regulate it, sanction it, organize it, and have some ability to control it, well, then I got to leave it into the parents. They're the primary educators. They're the ones that are responsible for the actions and the decisions that their sons are making. All I'm going to do is be a secondary educator and kind of assist along the way. I'm going to try to learn as much as I possibly can. I'm going to try to inform them, educate them, instruct them the best way that I can. But again, I got to be cautious, because it's not my child. It's their responsibility to parent them to the best that they can. And then I'm just here as to be a support system. And we're in the infancy, Randy. It's at the very, very beginning of this whole thing. You ask me this question 5 years down the road, I'm going to have a completely different answer. But right now, I think that's the approach that I'm taking. I think it's the intelligent way to go about it, to inform myself as much as I possibly can, learn as much as I possibly can. But at the end of the day, I have to defer this to the parent and allow them to be able to make the best decisions for their child and his future.
Why should a top young player come to St. John Bosco? Let's hear, this is your recruiting, or not. You don't recruit, but I know.
Right. No, I mean, I'll be honest with you. We recruit every athlete or every student that comes to our school. I mean, I think that's one of the things that's a misconception about our schools. They think we actively go out there and have recruiting trips and all this kind of nonsense, but that is not true. The term recruiting is actually a realistic term that we use here at our school. We have to recruit students. We need, enrollment, or we don't have a school. We don't have feeder schools. We don't get money from the state. We don't have kids that are deemed this is the school that you're going to. We have to do a really good job within our program to provide something that is going to attract kids and parents to want to send their kids here. So with that being said, I'm going to work hard on trying to provide a place that is a destination for a kid to reach his potential within this 4-year window of time in order to be able to get what he's looking for, and that's free education at the collegiate level. It's simple. Bosco is a place of development, academically, spiritually, and culturally, as well as athletically, to try to get kids to be able to reach their maximum potential, or their genetic ceiling, as we like to use, in terms of their matriculation into the college phase of their lives. So it's a big responsibility, for myself, my staff. Obviously, parents in many a times are investing in their child's education now, so that way they don't have to invest in it later. It's going to be given to them. And that's a hard, kind of, situation to have to deal in, or world to live in. However, what we've been able to do in terms of the development of our athletes, both off the field in the classroom, in terms of meetings and film work and teaching them the game of football, the off season and the strength and conditioning that which we do in the weight room and on the field in terms of body development and the changing of the composition of their bodies, as well as the football work and the techniques and the knowledge that we're providing them on the field. Those 3 things the parents are using in order to get their kids to the next level. And we create no greater platform in the country than St. John Bosco in terms of, if you want to be a collegiate scholarship athlete that's prepared when you arrive day 1 on campus, this would be a great destination for you.
How did they reach your program?
Well, you know what? Honestly, it's kind of not too hard to find. I mean, we're kind of on every social media channel out there. We have a phenomenal campus here in Bellflower. We attract kids from all over the greater Los Angeles area. The evolution of social media has really helped us. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, we're on all those channels. We have a great website. We're an open, campus in terms of if somebody wants to come here and shadow, they want to spend a time, here and go through a tour, meet with our admissions department, call the school, turn on ESPN. We played on Saturday on ESPN, and we've had a lot of outreach from people, kids, through our emails, through our social media, direct message component of that. How do I become a St. John Bosco student? I want to play for you. Direct them right to the admissions office, let them go to their work. And then if the kid is serious about that approach, or the family is serious about that, you go through the proper channels in terms of the undue influence and the pre-enrollment contact that we all know about here at Bosco. Then they have an opportunity to come and do that. So it's kind of a finicky thing. It's something that we take a lot of pride in. We're not going to make excuses for being successful or having kids that want to be a part of this program. And we're going to embrace it, and we're going to relish in it. And we're going to continue to go out there and try to give these kids the best chance that they have to be a part of an elite program that competes at a national level.
I would suggest all viewers go to coachtube.com and learn more from Coach Negro. I thought this is a great site for coaches and athletes and parents to go to learn about you and a lot of other coaches. So thanks, Coach Negro. I really appreciate you being on with us today. Finish strong, brother.
Thanks, man. Again, I thank you for the platform that you're given and what LeVar Arrington is doing in terms of highlighting high school athletics. And Coach Tube is something that's, pretty amazing. And I think people need to take advantage of a resource that's out there that can really help them within their decisions as to, where do you want to attend a school, or what, is in your best interest as a student athlete. Anytime you have educational resources that are out there that can allow you to learn or become a better person in whatever you're doing is always beneficial, and I'm going to support it. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to you, speak to whoever might be listening. And anytime you need me, I would be more than happy to come on here talk a little bit about football or a little bit about our program or what we're trying to do for the high school student athlete.
I appreciate you, Coach.
Thanks a lot, Randy. You take care, and go Braves.
Go Braves. Thanks for joining us again for Taylor Scouting on the Up On Game Network. You can find my podcasts on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts, or watch us on YouTube at Up On Game Presents Taylor Scouting. Rate and review us. Follow me on X at rtaylorfbscout. And college prospects can get evaluated through my X page. Just direct message me or follow me, and I'll check you guys out. We'll see you next week with another episode of Up On Game Presents Taylor Scouting.